Hello BookTube, this is Weekly Reads. I've had a mixed reading week. I started my reading week with a work of history that I quite enjoyed, and that is In Hitler's Munich, Jews, the Revolution, and the Rise of Nazism by Michael Brenner, translated by Jeremiah Riemer. This is a book about Munich from the Revolution of November 1918 to the Beer Hall Putsch of November 1923. And it looks at Munich during these years by focusing primarily on the Jewish or Jewish descended residents of Munich, as well as Eastern European Jewish refugees. I quite enjoyed the book. It was a very interesting, very harrowing, very there's a sense of creeping horror as Munich goes from the cultural capital of Germany, a more liberal, a more open, a more tolerant city than Berlin, to, as Thomas Mann would say in 1923, the city of Hitler, a city rife with anti-Semitism, a home of right-wing extremists who were at best ignored, but for the most part catered to. The Bavarian government and the Munich police were very often collaborators. They aided and abetted, they provided a safe haven, they enacted laws that were intended to expel the Eastern European refugees who were were exclusively Jewish. And yeah, they essentially supported right-wing extremism in the city. And there's that sense of that creeping horror as the years go by. So I quite liked it. And I reviewed it for Open Letters Monthly, and I'll leave a link to my review in the show notes down below. So, planning up to leave a link for that. Okay, so on Monday, I decided to participate in August of Adventure. This is a BookTube event this month created by Sean and Mark of Sean D. Standfast and Book Time with Elvis. And each week, a different adventure novel was focused on. I only had one of the 5 novels featured, and that was King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard, which I have in this 4-novel omnibus edition that includes Cleopatra, She, King Solomon's Mines, and Alan Quatermain, the sequel to King Solomon's Mines. King Solomon's Mines is set in South Africa. It's about a big game hunter named Alan Quatermain, who is approached by an English aristocrat, Sir Henry Curtis, for information about Sir Henry's missing brother, George. A few years previously, George Curtis, traveling under an assumed name, encountered Alan Quatermain while Curtis was seeking a diamond mine to make his fortune. Unlike a sensible person who would have gone to the Kimberley mine, if I'm correct, George Curtis decides to try his luck with a legendary mine, the so-called King Solomon's Mines, that is reputed to have been located a bit further north, past some quite inhospitable terrain. And as you can imagine, George goes missing, and Sir Henry decides to come to South Africa to search for him in person. Sir Henry recruits Alan Quatermain to set up an expedition. They're joined by Sir Henry's friend, Captain John Good, and a Zulu warrior named Umbopa. And they have some adventures as they trek to basically a mountain range. And then once they cross the mountain range, they come upon a undiscovered country populated by a people inspired by the Zulus named the Kukuanas. They're relatively recent immigrants in the area. It seems that the not quite original inhabitants, but the people who operated the mines were long gone, possibly several centuries, several millennia gone. Anyway, so Quatermain, Curtis, and Good sort of impressed the Kukuanas with their technology and claimed to be traveling gods or sorcerers. And eventually they help Umbapa, who reveals himself to be Ignacy Kukuana, who is the rightful heir to the throne. The current king, Twala, murdered Ignacy's father when Ignacy was younger and drove Ignacy's mother, the primary wife, out of the country. Twala has been supported by a witch named Gagul for decades, and so basically Quatermain, Sir Henry, and Captain Good join Ignacy in enacting a civil war against Twala. They win, and then they finally get to the diamond mines, and then they go back home. I have a complicated history with King Solomon's Mines. I first encountered King Solomon's Mines when I was much younger. And my first encounter with it was actually the 1985 film version starring Richard Chamberlain and Sharon Stone, which I quite enjoyed when I was much younger, and as well as the sequel Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold, which is based on Alan Quatermain. And it took me a few years, quite a while actually, before I just saw in a Dover catalog. Dover is a publisher who specializes, for the most part, in publishing non-copyrighted works of usually canonical literature, but also science, math, that sort of thing. And I saw in the catalog that there was a 3-novel omnibus of H. Rider Haggard's works, including King Solomon's Mines, and Alan Quatermain. I bought it and slowly read it, and I quite enjoyed the 3 novels as a 14-year-old, although I've never since returned to She or Alan Quatermain. And every time I've returned to King Solomon's Mines, I don't get on with it. I think because while my first reading, there was that sense of adventure, that sense of thrill, of danger, that coming back to it, it's my reaction, my experience is more, well, they forget me. Why exactly have the whole missing George Curtis as the sort of reason to go? Because he kind of gets dropped quite a bit. If you're so anxious to find out what happened to your brother, are you going to take the time to go elephant hunting? Or even really allow the expedition to take time off for elephant hunting when you're paying for it. And then once they get to encounter the Kukuanas and learns that George never he never got that far, it's like, well, just drop him until he eventually shows up at the end of the novel. So and that kind of bugged me, and I'm never, like, after my first reading, I'm not really all that in love with Haggard's writing style. So it's like, I come back to King Solomon's Mines every few years, and I always have this struggle with it, which is, again, what I had this year, too. So this week was rather weird on the later end for my reading. I had to watch the Four Children of the Apocalypse Wednesday and Thursday. The original plan was just to watch them on Wednesday while my brother and sister-in-law took the new baby to her 2-week, 3-week checkup, and also my sister-in-law had an appointment. However, there was a scheduling snafu, and they had to push back the new baby's appointment to Thursday. So went over and watched the kids on the other 4 on Thursday. And so Thursday and today I decided to reread some volumes of poetry. And so I read, first of all, First Nights by Niall Campbell. This is his American debut. And like I said, when I first reviewed this back in April, I quite enjoyed it. It was my favorite of the slim volumes of poetry I read during that first week of April, and I still very much enjoyed it. I still quite like this one. So. And then I read today Bridled by Amy Ming. I didn't get on with this collection when I first read it back in April, although I think a bit better of it now. There are still some poems that I'm not all that fond of, but there are quite a few that have risen in my estimation, so that was quite pleasant. I also read today the first volume of The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, which I would show you, but I'm currently charging my tablet because I kind of ran it out of power. So anyway, so The Sandman is probably one of the works that Neil Gaiman's most famous for. It's an extended comic book series about Morpheus, the god of dreams, who in this sort of setting is one of a number of sort of abstract entities called the Endless, who all begin with D's: destiny, death, dream, desire, despair, destruction, and delirium. This particular story arc features Dream having been imprisoned for decades by a 2-bit sorcerer, and then he eventually escapes and goes to recollect his items of office, his tools, his pouch that contains sand, dream sand, his helmet, which is sort of his crown, and his ruby, which is sort of, I guess, a focus for his power. The 3 items had been stolen from him, and over the course of this arc, he recollects them. He encounters John Constantine, or Constantine, sorcerer who's quite familiar within the DC universe, who had possession of the sands, he goes to hell to get his helmet back from a demon, and then he has to basically get his ruby back from a supervillain named Dr. Destiny. I think the Sandman adaptation that just came out on Netflix is better. I thought it was a bit over. I mean, basically, except for a few things, the adaptation is quite close. But I think the adaptation, the Netflix Sandman series, I think does a better job overall than the comic book. I thought the comic was a bit over narrated, and the art was bad, just bad. So anyway, that was my reading week. This coming reading week, I have for sure 2 books that I'm planning on. Well, 1 book and starting a series this coming week. So this weekend I'm going to start Waterloo Sunrise, London from the 60s to Thatcher by John Davis. This is history of I guess a neighborhood in London. I'll obviously find out more as I read it this weekend and into this coming work week, because it's I want to say it's like 500 pages. Oh no. Okay, I might actually get this. Might actually just take me this weekend, but I'm kind of planning a bit into the work week. So pretty much I'll read this, and then on starting September 1st, Thursday, I will be starting my reading of Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. I'll be reading all 27 volumes in the space of however long it takes me to read them. When I talk about the series, I'll be holding up volume 1 rather than all 27. That would be a bit excessive. Fullmetal Alchemist is about the Elric brothers, Edward and Alphonse. They are 2 prodigy alchemists who attempt human transmutation in an attempt to resurrect their mother. The brothers are grievously punished for this transgression. Edward loses a leg, and Alphonse loses his body. To save Alphonse's life, Edward sacrifices an arm to transcribe Alphonse's soul onto a suit of armor. Edward is then given later 2 prosthetics made out of automail, which is why when he becomes a state alchemist, he is given the moniker Fullmetal Alchemist. Edward and Alphonse then travel across their home country of Amestris looking for this Philosopher's Stone, a alchemical artifact reputed to be able to bypass the laws of equivalent exchange. If in this setting, if you want to make something or do something with alchemy, you have to sacrifice something of equal value or equal amount. As the brothers travel, they learn disturbing truths about the Philosopher's Stone, as well as uncover a long-running conspiracy that goes to the very heart of the Amestrian government, in which sees both brothers as key ingredients to their final plan, their promised day. I love Fullmetal Alchemist. It has been far too long since I've read the series, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. Now, I'm not entirely sure how long Waterloo Sunrise is going to take me, so there's possibly going to be a few days between me finishing Waterloo Sunrise and starting Fullmetal Alchemist. So I'll probably pick something to read in between then, and I'll talk a bit about that on next weekly reads. I think what I'm going to do is I might not talk about Fullmetal Alchemist this coming weekly reads and just do a special Fullmetal Alchemist video, and then do that following weekly reads when I've finished Fullmetal Alchemist to talk about what I'll be reading coming up, or if I've read something that I haven't, depending on exactly how I finish Fullmetal Alchemist. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been reading and what I'll be reading. As far as my plans for next week, Monday, I think I will do a video about my reading plans for September. Obviously, I'm going to start with Fullmetal Alchemist, and then I will probably, because I know I want to participate, I think, in Dictember. I think I'll probably just read an Agatha Christie mystery featuring Poirot, although I don't know quite which one yet. And I might do August Amour, although I don't know quite what I would pick for that. I need to kind of go through the books that my mom has gotten from my aunts and probably just pick one or two. And then also there's this event called Shorty September, which I need to learn more about. And I might also participate in Space Opera's September, which is a booktube event created by Thomas Wagner of SFF 180, in which participants read space operas in September. So yeah, and I'll talk a bit more about this on Monday, because I should be able to do a September plans video. I know my discussion videos have failed, but hopefully September reading plan won't fail. On Tuesday, I will do a tag video, although it won't be the book to movie adaptation tag, because I have tried to do that tag for weeks and it has failed, so I'm just not going to do it. On Wednesday, I will have my August book haul. It's looming right there, and there are quite a few books, so it's going to be fun. And then on Thursday, I might try to do another tag video. And then, of course, on Friday, I will do weekly reads. So that's about plans for next week. Hopefully, I can do a video every day, but we'll see. So anyway, BookTube, that's all I've got for this video. So thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend, and I will see you hopefully on Monday with some September plans and maybe even a bit of a TBR. We shall see. So until then, BookTube, thank you and stay safe.